Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frankie Smith Funeral Home.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm your host, Paul Jass. Thank you for joining us. And as we tape today, it's a beautiful day here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. The festival is rapidly approaching. We'll be getting involved in that and have Deb Cano on and talk about all things festival before you know it. But there are other events that are going on, and so we're excited to think about some of them. Coming up this weekend is the Twin Cities Tour with the Heritage Association, which are Baltimore and Basel. We'll talk to Mary Lawrence about that in the second half of the show. First half, we're glad to have back with us and kind of a quarterly update, our Lancaster Mayor, David Scheffler. Mayor, thank you for joining us.
Paul, I'm happy to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you on. There's always a lot going on in the city of Lancaster. We can count on that, and 99% of it, and I'm pleased to say, for the most part, from what I hear, which my ear isn't to the ground like as much as yours, but things seem to be progressing smoothly.
Well, that's true.
There's always a few bumps, but in the big picture.
If nothing is going on, we try to stir something up. So
always good to know that from the mayor,
isn't it? A lot
of
behind-the-scenes stirring up.
There always is. There always is. Budgets are out. That's always a big chatter with the Lancaster and the city, and I guess police and the fire, they're the biggest budget eaters in the city. I mean, they have the most people, they have the most going on, so it's an exciting time when budgets are up.
Right, and certainly we've had the good news recently about Magna and South Central Power locating in Lancaster, so that's on the good side.
That is good news.
On the bad side is we've recently had the report out of a committee that I initiated in December. I asked Jerry Stebleton and Ken Culver, both well-known local public figures, and to form a committee to look at city finances for the next 10 years to see where we were. And last November, when we approved the 2019 budget, it was my first year doing the budget. And of course, I have a financial background, so I spotted some things that I thought looked pretty ominous. So
out there in the future.
Out there in the future.
Yes.
And our cash balances were dwindling. Expenses have been increasing for many years faster than our revenue has increased, and we had to eat into our cash reserves for 2019. So I asked Jerry and Ken to form a committee to look at city finances, and they invited Linda Sheridan from Snyder and Company CPAs, Jim Bonson, who's the county treasurer, and Bob Slagle, who is retired and lives in Lancaster, but was the finance director at the city of Piqua for many years. So he has a lot of great knowledge and background
Brings a lot.
in government financing. So they made their report to City Council, and they project if we do nothing going forward, no increases in revenue, no increases in expenses, no new additional employees, no anything, that at the end of 10 years we will be $6 million in the hole cash-wise.
Not good.
Not good. We're required to keep $4 million in the bank at the end of every year for our bond covenants. Obviously the city borrows money, and if we don't meet certain conditions, then our interest rate goes way up, or we're not able to get financing in the future. So we're required to keep $4 million, first of all, for bond covenants, and secondly, because practically speaking, you need to have that in the bank to spend going forward, because our revenue doesn't come in, like a paycheck, equal amounts every month. We get money sporadically throughout the year. So they looked at a number of scenarios of ways that the city could increase revenue and made, at least presented us with a model of increased city income tax, property taxes going forward to fix that. Now, we can't continue and just do nothing. We
Right.
can't not hire additional employees. We can't not give raises because, first of all, most of our employees, I know police and fire specifically, are significantly under our peer cities around Central Ohio. So recruiting is tough. Retaining employees is tough because they can go to another city with their experience. The other thing is, because the city is growing, we've had significant increases over the years in medic runs, police runs.
Yes.
We're up over, I think we're over 9,000 fire runs a year, and that's up significantly. We actually have, in 2010, we have 82 firemen. Our current full strength is at 70, is all that's authorized. So we're doing much more with a lot less resources, and we need to add a fourth medic to the city just to cover the runs we have. We had 227 in 2018, 227 mutual assistance runs from departments surrounding Lancaster, like Pleasant Township, Byrne Township, Greenfield Township, where all of our trucks were out, and they were able to assist us by sending a medic or a fire truck in for a run. So we desperately need a fourth medic crew.
Yeah, not the ideal scenario there.
Not the ideal scenario, yes. And, it's somewhat surprising, but that would cost $1.3 million a year to add a fourth medic, because you've got to man it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It takes 3 people on a crew to do that, and of course you have vacations, days off, etc. So you need 12 people to staff a fourth medic. And salaries are expensive, equipment supplies, all that kind of stuff.
When I talk to Chief Ward, I hear things just like the cots they use. I mean, they're just huge numbers for small pieces of equipment.
$50,000 to $60,000.
It's unbelievable.
Right, and they're all powered now, so
Yes.
the medics don't have to lift them, because if you get a heavy person, you can get a lot of
Sure.
back injuries
Sure.
to the medics, and so they're all powered, so they will lift up to the level of the truck. And all kinds of equipment, and every firefighter in Lancaster now has to be a medic. Also has to have a paramedic card in addition to a fire card. So they're all doing double duty. Police, we're up to 66,000 calls a year for police runs. You start dividing that out, and 50% of them are on the 3 to 11 shift. So you start looking at how many calls an hour come in, and I know I get emails or communications from citizens who are quite frustrated that it took the police a half hour to get there, and a lot of times for calls that certainly aren't emergencies, but they want some action. They don't understand that all the officers are out on other calls, could be very serious calls.
Just not ignoring them.
They're not ignoring it, but they have to realize that they are extremely busy, and they just go. If you go up to Firehouse 1, which is an easy walk from City Hall, so we get up there quite frequently for different events and promotions and new hires and retirements and that kind of stuff. And you can see the board. It actually has all of the departments in the county and where their trucks are, who's out on call, and you can be up there for 10 minutes and 2 calls will come in. And they're dispatching from Lancaster for all 3 fire departments. And so it's just kind of crazy how busy they are, and they get spread pretty thin.
And I would imagine someone like me, and that's a big part of it, is just ignorance of the system. Somebody like me would have no idea how busy they are, but it wouldn't take long if everybody could take a visit there to see they're not slacking.
Yeah, a lot of times you go up there and there's nobody there.
Sure.
Or you go up for something for a promotion ceremony and they all get called out, and you're left standing there with the cake. This says
more cake for you.
Says congratulations on it. Yes.
and that's I guess that's an issue, and I guess a lot of people. But if you're in town for any length of time, sirens always going
Yes.
around. You can't be anywhere in the town and not have to pull over at some moment. Somebody's coming around you.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
So it's
That's true. So we're going to be looking at solutions. Going forward, there's obviously going to have to be some enhancements to our revenue at some time in the very near future, just so we can meet the need and meet our bond covenants and have some money left in the bank to pay salaries.
Well, and just to say, someone with your financial background who spotted this, thanks for looking ahead, because it would be easy from somebody in your spot who has a year or two, maybe another term, but never really have to face that on your watch, to just let it go and it's somebody else's problem. But good for you for getting the people, and for people like Jerry and Ken and the other folks you named, who are certainly wonderful servants in the community, to try to come up with, to I guess, see the problem and then look at possible solutions.
Well, we needed to have somebody independent from the city
Sure.
look at it.
Sure.
And certainly all those people are very well versed in finances. And certainly Ken and Jerry both have served on council, school board. Jerry served in the legislature, so they understand government financing, how it works, and finances. So they worked literally hundreds of hours. They invested over 6 months, the 5 of them, to come up with the report they did.
Well, we always appreciate the mayor, Dave Scheffler, coming over and joining us and kind of giving us an update. Not a bleak picture, but certainly an honest picture of what is coming up here. Maybe not immediately, but it's out there, and it has to be dealt with. So good.
Yes, it does.
Thanks to you, and thanks to City Council for taking this on, and for the other volunteers that the mayor has mentioned for looking ahead and just keeping Lancaster viable and keeping it going, and not all of a sudden our head's under a rock and we won't face a problem. So good for everybody involved.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor Dave Scheffler is with us, and we'll be back on Fairfield Today.
The Frank E. Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster or 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Nice to have you with us. And again, a beautiful day here in Lancaster, Fairfield County, and that's significant in the event we'll talk about in just a moment. Good weather will be important for what we'll talk about our next segment. We're excited to talk about it with the Fairfield Heritage Association. But here we are at Fairfield Federal, and if you have a project, if you have something coming up here as we head into the summer, the nice weather, a good place to look is Fairfield Federal. They have, and I think I can remember talking about this to Tim Oatney when he was on, when we talked taxes and things like that. I believe Tim's official term was a HELOC, home equity line of credit. That's something that can be obtained here at Fairfield Federal, and something you can use that has tax advantages if you take a pile of money and then invest it in your home and do things with it. There are tax advantages that can be useful for that. So that's something to look up as you begin perhaps a project. Maybe give the folks here at Fairfield Federal a call, talk to them about it, about an account, opening up a line of credit, and what advantages beyond, obviously, completing your project at home would it be for you to have that. So again, just another way that Fairfield Federal can help you complete the projects, and maybe on your home, or getting a new home, or revising a home that you currently have. FairfieldFederal.com is a good place to start. And we talked about good weather. It's important for the Heritage Tour that's coming up this weekend. We hope for good weather with that. We have Mary Lawrence, who's Marketing Director with the Fairfield County Heritage Association, and good weather would be wonderful.
It would.
A day like this would be fabulous.
It would be fabulous, but the show goes
Rain or
on.
shine.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. 51st year.
For the
Am I
tour
correct
of
on
homes.
that?
Correct.
For the tour of home. That's remarkable that, and I can remember how over the years how exciting time that's been for Lancaster and Fairfield County, and certainly Fairfield County in this respect this year. But gosh, it's a big moment, a real chance to shine for the Heritage Association.
It really is, and it's been a major fundraiser for our organization from the beginning,
Sure.
which is important because we operate the Sherman House and the Georgian Museums,
Yes.
and the admissions alone don't even pay the utilities. So
Sure.
projects like this keep us going. We also champion revitalization and restoration, and we provide educational programming throughout the year. So this is an important event for us.
So I think you can think that while it's important, you buy tickets, you enjoy what you see on this event this weekend, but you can think about how much you're helping Lancaster and Fairfield County by keeping things like the Sherman House and other venues open. Otherwise, things might go dark.
Things could go dark.
Yeah.
So this is really important to us.
Well, this is an exciting time, Twin Cities tour of homes.
Yes.
And the Twin Cities are
Basel and Baltimore.
almost one city, but we'll not call them one city. It's Baltimore and Basel right up there, right next. You couldn't get any closer than
No.
what Baltimore and Basel are right there. It's a really neat area, and I was looking at the homes that are listed there. Gosh, there's some fabulous looking places in a community like Baltimore who has kept up so nicely.
Yes, and we have 14 sites,
Wow.
which is most probably we've ever had.
Yes.
But and it takes different times to go through the buildings.
Sure.
But there are buildings from the Basel side and there are buildings from the Baltimore side, and they all have rich history. The oldest house is from the 1820s. The newest house is from the 1920s. So almost every building is a centennial building or better.
And some of these are certainly within walking distance.
Yes, most of them are in fairly close walking distance. One park in the Basel end will get you a lot of houses. One park at the Baltimore end will get you a lot of buildings. So, and then there are 3 outside the city limits that will take a little driving, but we think they're all worth the stop.
Sure. Now, so let's get out there how the tickets can be purchased. Still in advance, even
Still
a
in
few
advance.
days away?
Yes, you can buy them in advance and save $5 a ticket. They are $15 a person, $6 for students 5 to 18.
Nice.
And then tour weekend, they're $20 a person, which is still a deal. That's less than $2 a site.
Sure.
And some of these they're just fun houses. They all have interesting histories, and it's a great way to spend the day.
And I would go on your website. You can look up Fairfield Heritage Association. You can look that up and search that, and you can find it and get on there. And then you can look at events, and they have it. It pops up readily. It's a nice website, very interactive, very easy to work with. But they have all the homes listed, all the extra things we'll talk about too. But they have the home listed and a little brief thumbnail sketch of each home and how it came about and why it's where it is. But 2 of them struck me.
Okay.
2 of them struck me. One I saw where it says, "This home is the only home that changed addresses." What's that about?
That's correct. We have one of the oldest homes was from the John Bright farm, and people
well
know,
known.
Yes, and people know John Bright for the 2 bridges that ended up at OU Lancaster.
Lancaster Festival bridges right there that lead you to the venues.
Right. It was a very
Sure.
prosperous
Sure.
farm, and when it sold, the people who bought the farm in this century did not want the farmhouse, and so the farmhouse was sold separately, and it was moved across 3 acres and a creek bed in 3 parts, and then they reassembled it out on Leonard Road, and that's one of the places that's a drive from town.
And
but
well
not-
worth it.
Yes, and they've reassembled it and has wonderful antiques and some things. I think there's some part of Rushville School, when it was torn down, part of that's in this new house, and it's just a
Nice.
fascinating place to visit.
So, and that's one that'll have to be driven too.
You'll have to drive that too.
Leonard Road, yeah.
But you can buy tickets and get your ticket booklets that weekend. If you buy tickets in advance, you get a card.
Okay.
And then you exchange that for your ticket book that
gotcha.
has the map and all the houses in it.
Now, I said there were 2. The other one, besides the one that changed addresses, was the thing that struck me was there's I don't know if they call it a kit home, but it was a catalog home.
Yes.
Purchased from Sears.
Yes.
In the 30s.
No, 20s.
Was it 20s?
Yes.
But purchased from Sears.
Yes.
And I remember that, and I guess that's important to me. I worked at Sears at one time, and my friend from Pickerington worked at Sears. He lived on near Pickerington, and his home is a Sears catalog home. It was
Yes.
purchased and put together. A unique idea now, but
Now.
not so unique then.
No, I mean, it was IKEA before IKEA was IKEA.
They sent you, and everything was numbered and lettered, and you just put it together.
Came in on a railroad road car,
Nice.
and hardware and everything.
Yeah.
And this is a sweet little house. And a lot of the original features are still there. They enclosed the porch, but that was it. And one of the things that's so amazing about this house is the original oak woodwork. And
From the 20s.
From the 20s.
Wow, 100 years.
And it has a good morning staircase that splits coming down to the ground floor. And as one friend described it, if you come downstairs and there are people in the living room you really don't want to see, you scoot down to the kitchen and have your coffee.
And it came like that originally.
Yeah, that was the original. And it has built-in cupboards and built-in desks, and it just was, it's just a treasure. So, and the family there, the Vealeys, have wonderful antiques throughout.
Now, my wife asked me this question. I was telling her about this home because my wife worked at Sears too. So we're talking about the Sears home. Do we know what the cost was when it was purchased 100 years ago? What somebody would have paid Sears for it? Fullerton home, I believe the
Yes.
model was the Fullerton home. And they
Yes.
had different levels, different models, what you wanted to spend. Do we have any idea what that would have
I
been?
think this was in the $2,000 range.
And then they shipped it to you on a railroad car.
And shipped it to you on a railroad car. And so that was a pretty good business of theirs.
Oh, absolutely.
Up through, and the Depression, I think, kind of killed
Sure.
that off.
That's back when Sears Roebuck, that's back when Sears was just a real player in the retail world back then. And that just shows how big they were. They did things like that.
And you could get your mortgage through them, too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. The
So-
full-service retail giant, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah. So now there are other places, too, behind. I know the Greiley Museum is in
Greiley.
on this, and there's some other Baltimore features there?
Yes, the Baltimore Community Museum has been really nice to us and very helpful. So both the museum and the Greiley House will be on tour. The Greiley House is another place where you can get tickets and tour booklets tour weekend.
Okay.
And we have demonstrations there by the Central Ohio China Painters Guild and
Oh,
by the
nice.
Basel Garden Club, which
Nice.
is the oldest garden club still in the state.
I always see them at the fair. I guess
Yes.
that's where I really see in the flower department.
Yes.
They always see many entries from the Basel
Yes.
Club.
So they're going to be there. We've got two opera houses. One is the Victoria Opera House, which is in the process of being restored.
That's the one right there on the corner.
Right there at Main and
Main,
Market.
right.
And the other was the Basel Opera House, which was built in 1901, I believe, by the Knights of Pythias. And just as the Opera House had, I believe it was the Masons and they met on the top floor.
Sure.
This was the Knights of Pythias, and they met on the top floor. And and then the bottom was for the theater. So, and opera was a classier name than theater because theater was a little trashy back then. So, for about its first 30 years, it was a theater for stage shows and then movie shows, and it was known as the Aurora Theater.
Okay.
And then
Nice history.
and then a church bought it and had it for a number of years. And so they changed the format of the auditorium so that when you walk in, I mean, that's the neat thing. When you walk in, you can see all its lives there before you. It has they brought the woodwork down to where you could see where there would have been a pulpit and that. And the balcony is still there. The balcony is still there. That's
Good.
where the Morgans, who bought this house in the 1990s, that's where they have their bedrooms. In fact, Mr. and Mrs. Morgan's bedroom is the old projector room on the second floor, but the original balcony is still there. And then it became, a long time was the VFW post. And you can see the restroom, the sign leading down to the restrooms in the VFW. And then it was an auction house for many years. And so when the Morgans bought it, they are the first and only people to live there. And the only plumbing at that time was the VFW restrooms in the basement. And they really worked on it. And the ticket booths are still there. They've made rooms behind that, bedrooms behind each side. And then you step into this auditorium, and this is this magnificent great room. And there are antiques everywhere. And what used to be the stage is now a storage area, but they've got a little kitchen over here.
Nice.
So you go to the second floor and see the bedrooms, and then you go to the third floor, and the Morgans have made that the old meeting room. That is now where Mrs. Morgan teaches line dancing and yoga, and the beautiful wood floor is all there. And then for the really adventurous, you can go all the way up to the attic, where Mr. Morgan had his dark room, and he's got every beam polished, clean. It is so clean up there. And if you climb up there, you can see a beautiful view of the countryside. It's one of the best views of town. And this house was featured twice on HGTV for the way that they had developed it. It is a treasure.
So it's really been repurposed
Yes.
many times over the years.
Yes.
And every evolution has added something, and,
Yes.
and you can sort of see that evolution
Absolutely.
as you go now.
Yes.
Yes.
And around the corner from that is this fabulous house built in the 1820s for the Leonard family. And the Leonards were one of the early settlers of Basel. And in fact, the father-in-law of the first couple that lived there, he was Jacob Goss, who laid out the town. So this is one of the original plots.
Okay.
And Mark Taylor and Patrick Kopp live there now, and it's like stepping into another museum because they have a fabulous collection of primitive Ohio furniture and ephemera from the different mills and businesses, and just all kinds of collections.
Very good. Very
And-
good. We've got about a minute left. Give us the how to purchase tickets again.
You can purchase tickets online at fairfieldheritage.com. You can call our office at 740-654-9923. They are also on sale at the Sherman House and the Georgian Museums, and at Fairfield National Bank's downtown branch, its Baltimore branch, and its Meyer branch. And tour weekend, you can pick them up in downtown at Basel and Baltimore.
Well, tour weekend is this weekend, a Twin City tour of homes, Baltimore and Basel communities up there. We hope for good weather, but rain or shine, you're going to be able to get a good tour.
Absolutely.
Mary Lawrence has been with us from the Heritage Association. Thank you, Mary, very much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us at Fairfield today.
Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frankie Smith Funeral Home.